Alhamdulillah. Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Yep, so we could see everyone, inshallah. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم آمين يا رب العالمين. How much time? Half an hour? Every day you live in your life, you are constantly under two types of attacks. You cannot escape it. One comes to you within yourself, inside, and one comes through the kind of attacks that comes to your mind through the concept of thinking and understanding matters of life. Or what we say, the challenges of ash-shahawat and ash-shubuhat. And I need you to remember these two terms. Shahawat in Arabic, it means desires, that is built in with you. But the shubuhat are the doubts that either the shaitan or the people who are on the track of a shaitan throw to your mind to kind of disturb you, put you in doubt of that which you believe in. And that's where the topic for tonight, Am I Muslim by Accident, was meant to be. When the brothers sent me the choices of what topics should I choose from, this was one of them, and I said, this is the one. I wanted to talk more about this because we are living now in a time and an environment that it is so easy to throw doubts at what we believe in. Even I have witnessed young men and women who attended Saturday schools, who came to halaqat, who even went to Muslim schools all their lives, and in one session in front of a professor at college, when they went to a university or a college, couple questions that were thrown at them, it just messed them up. Because somehow the process of learning their deen was mainly focused on how to control your shahawat, your desires, but there wasn't much effort and doses of stability to their ability to believe in a level of yaqeen, certainty, that can help them clear any doubts that could be thrown at them. I'm going to give you an example that happened in this masjid, right in the office where Sheikh Arafat probably is now, I believe. I used to be there. A young Latino guy, he's not young, he came from Northwestern University. And usually whenever people come to learn about Islam, we give them, the traditional, 5 pillars of Islam. He said, no, I have just few questions for you. And I'm going to pose this question to you and see what is your answer, guys. He asked me, if there is one ayah in the Quran you would like to change, which one would it be? What is your suggestion? None. Why? This is Quran to us, but he's not a Muslim. And of course, you will say none because you're a Muslim and this is the book of Allah. But he needed a logical answer, something that makes sense. Any thoughts that might make sense? Why can't we change any? And look at the way that he phrased it. If there's one ayah you would like to change, which one would it be? Nothing. Authority. So who could change with authority? The problem. Okay. So this was my answer to him. Actually, he asked me 3 questions. I'm going to share the 3 questions with you. The first question was, have you ever doubted your faith? He said, as an imam who sits down and teach people about faith, have you ever yourself had doubts? I said, yes. I said, to reach certainty, yaqeen, you must doubt. And if you don't, it means you did not go through the process. But the moment you reach certainty, there is no more doubts anymore. He shook his head and he said, I like that. And this is actually an answer that was, I quoted by Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, Hujjatul Islam, al-Imam al-Ghazali. You are always in a journey to learn, but the moment you know the truth and you are certain, that's it. There's no more space for what? الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَرْتَابُوا. Then there's no more place for doubts. That's what Allah says, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he said, if you were on top of an empire, or even he quoted at that time, it was President Bush at that time when he was, in these days, back in 2004 or 2005. If you had the power to be in the position of President Bush at that time, what would you want the world to remember you with? I said justice. Because people don't care which God you pray to or what theology you carry on. People care as citizens. Are you able to deliver justice, equality to them as citizens? And I quoted for him when the Prophet ﷺ told his own companions who were Muslims to go live under a non-Muslim ruler who was at Abyssinia al-Habasha, or Ethiopia now. And what did he tell him? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, اذهبوا إلى أرض الحبشة فإن فيها ملكا لا يظلم عنده أحد. To go to Abyssinia, for there's a king, no one will be wronged under him. And then he posted this last question. If there's one verse in your holy book that you would like to change, which one would it be? Of course, the answer none, but I knew that I had to answer in a way that made sense to him. I said, if you bought a robot, it came with a manual. Can this robot suggest for you what changes in the manual you need to do so he can function better? He paused and he said, no. I said, I am the product. God is the maker. The Quran is my manual. I don't have the luxury of intellect to rise over the level of the Quran and make suggestions with it. He stood up and he shook my hand and he said, thank you. You're the first one who made sense in your answer. Because he had passed almost, as he claims, to almost 15 different places of worship asking the same questions. What I'm trying to tell you from this example that happened right here at the Mass Foundation maybe 20 years ago or something, is that you need to give yourself time to learn your deen, to study, to reach the level of certainty, not just to be able to protect yourself, but to be someone that other people, when they come to you, you become someone that they can benefit from and be steadfast on their faith because of your own knowledge. And if we are the practicing Muslims, as we so call ourselves, who come and attend this, type of events and halaqat, don't do the homework to study and learn about deen. So people, when we go to high schools, when we go to colleges, when we sit with friends and they post, and now with social media right in our hands, there is so many doubts out there. There is so many things thrown at us on a daily basis. If you don't give yourself the ability to study and learn and answer in things that make sense, people are going to what? Going to be dragged into their doubts, and the chance for us to help them will be somehow limited in that matter. I wanted to give this example to give you an idea that the way, back to the point that I started with, to deal with your shahawat, with your desires. How can you control your desires? Anyone knows? We're talking about intimacy, we're talking about excessive eating, we're talking about anger, we're talking about grudges, how can you control all that? Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, go ahead. I'm sorry? Fasting, which is one item under the concept of what? 5 pillars. Ibadat, or worship. So through acts of worship, you can help yourself to be controlled through your desires not to go off track. And this is how the 5 daily prayers, the 5 pillars of Islam, reading the Quran, help you maintain your track on controlling your desires. How can you protect yourself from the shubuhat, the doubts that can mess up your thoughts and beliefs? Anyone knows? Knowledge. So through knowledge, you protect yourself from shubuhat. Through ibadat, you protect yourself from what? Ash-shahawat. And these are the 2 tracks that every one of us should invest in. Ibadah and amal. And this could be under the title of Iman and Amal Salih. Wal Asr, by the token of time, Inna al-insana lafi ish? Khusr. You are in constant status of, degrading into something less, except exempted from this are who? إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, which is faith, knowledge. Then what? وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. By yourself you cannot maintain it, so Allah added 2 more components. Which are what? وَتَوَاصَوْا. Tawasaw takes 2. It's not just by yourself. Tatawasa means there's another person you need to interact with. And you need to interact with other people. وَتَوَاصَوْا with what? بِالْحَقِّ, the truth. We need to remind. What we are doing now is tawasi with what? With al-haq. I'm sitting now giving you some tips that hopefully it will reside with you to first make you sure of what you believe in. Number 2, help you steadfast on what you believe in. Number 3, you take this knowledge and give it to someone else. بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً, as the Prophet said, sallallahu. Teach on my behalf even 1 ayah. What I am sharing with you now is not something that I was born with. I studied. I prepared before I came here so I could share with you these things. But also, this iman and good deeds, al-amal al-salih, and reminding each other by the truth needs a lot of what too? وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Without patience, perseverance, you cannot maintain. And you need to have that aspect in your life. With this being said, let me say that back when I was in high school myself, 1985, something like that. Back in Lebanon, 1987. The teacher came, and I was in an evangelical school, actually. I grew up all my life in an evangelical school. It was the only school that taught English in North Lebanon in a city called Tripoli. And the teacher who taught us philosophy, he walked in the first day and he said, take this textbook, and the first poetry that we had to study was from a Lebanese poet by the name of Elia Abu Madi. Now, he used to be here in the US, actually. He lived in Cincinnati. He used to be called from Udaba wa Shu'ara al-Mahjar. He's Lebanese, but like Gibran, you know Gibran? The very Lebanese poet. He was here in the US too. Mikhail Naima, probably Central or South America. Elia Abu Madi was in Cincinnati, Ohio. Then he moved to Brooklyn, New York, I believe, back in 1916 or something like that. Now, with the poetry that we studied for him, I'm going to translate. It says, جئت لست أدري من أين ولكني أتيت. I'm here in this world, but I don't know where I came from, but here I am. وأبصرت طريقا قدامي فمشيت. And then I saw everyone living, so I'm just living like everyone else. وسأظل سائرا شئت هذا أم أبيت. I'm gonna keep living like everyone else, with or without choice. كيف جئت لماذا جئت لست أدري. How did I come to this world? Why did I come to this world? I have no clue. وَلِمَاذَا لَسْتُ أَدْرِي. And if you're going to ask me why I don't know, لَسْتُ أَدْرِي, I don't know. I mean, that was the first class the first dose that they gave us when we were in high school in the philosophy class. Among the things that I do at Orland Park Masjid, and I used to do here, whenever there's a new person trying to learn about Islam or trying to convert, I ask him, what is your purpose in life? I start with that very question. And people start saying, I want to get graduated, I want to get married, I want to open. I said, is that the ultimate? What next? And then I said, or I say to them, look around you. Is there anything you can fail to define what's the purpose behind it? I mean, this bottle for water for you to drink, this glasses for you to read, trees for wood or oxygen, clouds for rain, gravity so we could be stabilized. Everything serves what? A purpose. Interestingly, all things around us or outside rotate around serving who? Us, human beings. And Allah said that in the Quran. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have honored the human race. وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. And we carried them over land and over water. وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. Allah is listing all the things that Allah has given us of provisions, making us better than others. The question is, if everything have a purpose and it's serving me, even the shoes, what is my purpose to live for? In Islam, and this is very important, this is the key where I'm going to go into, am I a Muslim by accident? Islam came to tell you that the only entity that is worthy for you to live for as a purpose is the one you owe him your own existence. Is the one you owe him everything that you are enjoying, from your life to the family, to the money, to the provisions, to the business, to relationships. If Allah is the one who granted you all that, then being a Muslim means that you logically, it makes sense, because it does not make sense to live for something that either matches you or lower than you. It does not make sense to us. The only thing that makes sense to us is that you go for a higher entity, which is the creator, and live for that purpose. And it gives you self confidence, and it gives you a sense of peace. Everyone who takes Shahada at the prayer center, and we do like 30 to 50 people every year, I ask them, what is the most important thing that got your attention about Islam? You would think he read a book and then something, popped up. He saw a Muslim family so close and bonded to each other, and that prompted some kind of da'wah. 90% of them say, because of one God. As simple as that answer is, but because the way they were raised, it didn't mix with them anything else. And then when they encountered Islam, that there's only one God, it just clicked. And this is where Islam comes to introduce you to two meanings. Anyone knows what Islam in Arabic means? Submission, one, there's another word, there's another meaning. Islam comes from the three-letter root word salima yaslamu, Islam. What does salima means? To be pure from defects. And that's the name of Allah, as-salam, meaning what? The one who is pure from any type of defects. That's why Allah called al-Jannah daru salam, lahum daru as-salami inda rabbihim, the land of purity. When someone talks about Islam, am I Muslim by accident? There is two types of Islam that we were introduced to. One, we have no choice in it, which is Islam, al-karahiyya, or not that you hate it, al-karahiyya bimana, you are enforced on it. Number one, did anyone ask your permission to bring you to this world? Did you choose your parents? Did you choose the place you were born? Did you choose the skin of your color? Did you choose the color of your eyes? You didn't have to choose any of that. It was all done for you. So in that area, the whole world, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَهُ أَسْلَمَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ طَوْعًا وَكَرْهًا. This part, we have no choice in it. Everyone lives the system. But Islam as a choice to embrace what we want to believe in, to submit, and to find purification in that process, it is a choice you need to make. And you need to make that choice based on facts. We don't want Muslims just to be Muslims because their parents are Muslims. It can start from that. You know the famous hadith? The Prophet ﷺ said, يُولَدُ الْمَوْلُودُ عَلَى إيش? Everyone is born on, what is al-fitra? The natural inclination or composition that everyone is created with. If you are sitting in front of an atheist and he's debating God or an agnostic or whoever he wants to call himself, if he's sitting on a chair and the temperature is controlled, it's not cold like outside, and he can argue and raise his voice and make his points and deny God. But if you are having that discussion with him on a plane and you are 35,000 feet up and turbulences hit and the plane dives 5,000 feet in 2 seconds, what is the first thing that guy is going to scream out? He's going to call his natural fitrah. He's not going to have time to debate, is God there or not? It's just going to kick in naturally. Ya Rab, in whatever language he's going to, he's going to call on whatever entity he believes in. This is the natural fitrah that the Prophet spoke about, that in luxury times you might deny it. You might say, I don't believe in that. It doesn't make sense to me. But in moment of despair, in moment of hardships, your natural fitrah is going to what? Kick in. And then the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فَأَبَوَاهُ يُهَوِّدَانِهِ أَوْ يُنَصِّرَانِهِ أَوْ يُمَجِّسَانِهِ. It's the role of the parents who might make him a Jew or a Christian or a Majusi. But he didn't say, أَوْ يُسْلِمَانِهِ. The hadith didn't add to make them Muslim. Why? Anyone knows? Because that is the fitrah, that is the origin. So even if the parents come and introduce you to Islam because you were born to a Muslim family, they are not introducing you to something new. Any other parents who are introducing you to any idea or concept other than Islam, they are introducing you to something new, something different than the original fitrah. But because the parents who happens to be Muslim are introducing to at-Tawheed or Islam, then they are in harmony with whatever Allah has created us with. And this is where it's going to take me to something I want to shift the focus. For all those people who were expecting some kind of a philosophical debate that's going to come, I want to take the discussion into more of a practical way, understanding that I am not a Muslim by accident, meaning with no choice. There is no a place for us to think about Islam that it came out of nowhere in my life. We need everyone to understand what Islam is. We need everyone to believe what Islam is about and to embrace it and to carry it as your faith, so you can be yourself a light that people can take from you. From all the discussions of Islam that could be out there, Islam means to submit, Islam means purity, Islam means... What was the Prophet's choice, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, to introduce Islam? What did he say, what Islam is? When the Prophet was asked about Islam, what did he say? How did he define it? Anyone knows? The very famous hadith. Jibreel, when he came in the shape of a human being, and he sat in front of the Prophet ﷺ, and he asked him the 5 pillars, which are what? Shahadatain, Salah, Zakah, Siyam, and Al-Hajj. Do you know the exact term that the Prophet said? بني الإسلام. What does mean بني? It means the pillars are under and Islam is top. Pay attention to this. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, بني الإسلام على خمس. So Islam is not the 5 pillars. Islam is the structure over the 5 pillars. The 5 pillars are the foundation that Islam stands on. This is very important to understand. Because people think, if I just say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and then I pray the 5 daily prayers, I fast Ramadan, I give zakah, I go to Hajj, I'm done. No. You are still underground. You are on the foundation. These 5 pillars, without going into a philosophical debate that's going to take you nowhere, are meant to translate a way of life that's going to be the structure over the foundation under. And I'm going to give you a tip for each one of these items, how you're going to understand the 5 pillars in a different perspective. What was the first one? Ash-shahada. To say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, right? I'm going to focus on the first part because the second part is a lecture by itself. La ilaha illallah. What does La ilaha illallah means? Very simple. Now this is a theological definition that there is no God but God. But I'm going to give you 2 tips to add to your knowledge about this statement. You cannot, what does La ilaha means in Arabic? Nafi. You are rejecting first, and then illallah, accepting second. So there is nafi wa ithbat in Arabic we say. Meaning what? You cannot land on illallah unless you are able to understand who is not God first. Let me repeat that. It is not enough to believe that there is God, Allah, unless you are able to understand who is not God first. And that's what the term means. La ilaha illallah. You know the story of Sayyidina Ibrahim? When he saw the planet, هذا ربي, فلما أفل, then he went out. And then the moon, and then they say, this is my Lord, and then the sun. So he was going through the process. When people come to and tell you, worship this cow as your God. And there are people who worship cows, by the way. Oh, thank you. I can think of beef, milk, cheese. But God, no thank you. Bring this, one of the Sahaba used to say, we were like so out of mind, like in Jahiliyyah. Someone would go to the market and buy him 5-6 pounds of dates. And then he will make from these dates a shape of a statue or an idol, and will take it with him and travel. And then while he's traveling, he will start what? Eating from the idol that he made, and he will say, Inna al-ilaha at'amani, that my Lord fed me. He said, how could we have been like that before? It's just stupid, So if someone comes and tell me, worship this idol, worship this statue, thank you. Worship another human being, why should I worship someone like me? So when you say, no God here, no God there, no God here, no God there, only then you are able to land on what? Illallah. This is the real phase of understanding La ilaha, and this is also mentioned in, anyone knows what's the ayah right after Ayat al-Kursi? Kafri, continue. And then, فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ first, وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ second, فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. You have to add, طاغوت is the term for falsehood. It is not enough to tu'min billah, you have to reject falsehood in any form. So it's important to be able to identify who is not God first, so you could land on who is God for true, and at that time you'll be immune if someone's gonna come and mess up with your what? With your thought. So that's tip number one. Tip number two in La ilaha illallah. Why do you think all these Sahaba who were poor, slaves, second class, all the things that were happening to them, what caught their attention to embrace Islam? Yes, there is the concept of one God, but they looked at what this word of Tawheed means in reality. When you say there is no God but God, it is a word that means everyone is equal. It simply means that. Shirk, what is shirk? We talk about associating someone else with Allah. Shirk as the outcome to associate someone else with Allah. But shirk from your side as a concept is to accept, to give holiness to someone like you or lesser than you. Why should you do that? When you are truly a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that no one is holy, no one is sacred, no one is better than anyone except by piety, then Islam through the concept of Tawheed is introducing people to what? To equality. That everyone is equal under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what prompted Bilal al-Habashi at that time to embrace Islam. And that's what made Malcolm X shift from where he was into what? Mainstream Islam. That's what made Suhaib al-Rumi embrace Islam. That's what made Sahaba like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, all the people who were not that much of famous status in Mecca, because they found the outcome of Tawheed is equality in real life, is something that is fair, something that is just. Islam came to cancel discrimination. Islam came to cancel racism. Islam came to say, "An-nasu sawasiyatun ka-asnan al-musht." People are equal like what? The comb, the one you comb your hair with, how it is. Islam came to tell people that لا فضل لعربي على أعجمي إلا بالتقوى ولا لأبيض على أسود. There is no preference of a black man or versus white man, of an Arab versus non-Arab, except with your ethics, your piety, your righteousness. And this is how we want to understand and promote La ilaha illallah. In other words, I am a Muslim by choice, not by accident, and I am going to practice the concept into being humble. When I meet people, I'm not going to be fast judging them because of the way they dress, or the way they walk, or the way they talk. You know, Imam al-Shafi'i once was asked, how did you reach this level of humbleness and tawadu that you are in? You know what he said? He said, ما لقيت مسلما إلا ظننت أنه أفضل مني. I never met a person, but I thought he might be better than me in the eyes of Allah. This approach made him cool down and not see himself better than what? Than others. Now, our main challenge, through discrimination toward each other, and racism, and yes, there is racism within the Muslim community, and there is discrimination within the Muslim community, it is because we sit down and we think that we are on some kind of a tower, and we are just sending our judgment of people around us. And this guy is from this country, this guy is from this balad, this guy. Who are you to put yourself in a place to declare that you are better than others? So the concept of Tawheed, of La ilaha illallah as one pillar, the Prophet ﷺ did not complicate philosophy in that. He just said it should reflect on how should you handle yourself as a normal person like everyone else. You are as equal. Sahaba or new Muslims would come and walk into the Prophet's Masjid ﷺ, and you know what would they say? Man fikum Muhammad. Where's Muhammad? Which means what? He's just like a normal person. They couldn't identify him. While if you go to any king or any emir or any sultan or any whatever emperor, you're going to have to go through 20 doors, and you're going to find him right in the middle of a pulpit, whatever, sitting, and there's 20 women, waving, bihawu alayh. And of course you're going to figure this is the king, this is the main person. People would come to meet the Prophet ﷺ and they would not recognize because he would be sitting with the normal people. ولا تعد عيناك عنهم تريد زينة الحياة الدنيا. Allah told them, do not turn yourself away from the normal people that are around you. He was Sayyidul Mutawadi'een sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So I want to cash Islam as a self-purification process from Salima Yaslamu with khudu' to Sharia in a way that these tenets of Islam, the 5 pillars, the Salah, when we're talking about the Salah, what is that you can cash out from a Salah as something that could make you, first, safe? People will feel that they are safe with you. When we finish Salah, what do we say? No, the last thing we do in Salah, what is that? Aywa. What is the first thing you say in Salah? Allah. And what is the last thing you say in Salah? As-salam. Both are what? Names of? Allah is the name of Ism al-Alam, and As-salam is one of his attributes. As if from the entrance of Salah to the end, you are submitting to Allah As-salam, who is the pure, and this Salah should process purity within yourself. And the first thing you're going to turn to your brother or to your sister and greet him with the name of Allah. I am in peace with you. I am in peace with you. So this is where we understand the ayah in the Quran where it says what? Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Salah should prevent you from filthiness and from any wrongdoing. And if a salah is not preventing you from spreading your filthiness on people around you, then you are not cashing salah much. You are doing movements. There's a difference between just doing movements, yes. As-salah, if you are on wudu, facing the qibla, covering your awra, reading the Fatiha, takbirat al-ihram, all the main things, you will not be held responsible for missing that prayer. But Ibn Mas'ud used to say, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, لَيْسَ لَكَ مِنَ الصَّلَاةِ إِلَّا مَا عَقَلْتَ مِنْهَا. We all prayed Isha, right? We all lifted the liability of not missing Salat al-Isha. But how much did we benefit from Salah? That's a different scale. That's different. Someone you might look at and say, this guy, he might have cashed from his Salah way more than you cashed yourself. قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم خاشعون في صلاتهم خاشعون. Humbleness is part of the understanding of what? Of al-khushu'. So as-salah first should purify me not to cause people harm, but then as-salah should elevate me, because what is the purpose of salah? Anyone knows? Connect, that's a good term. But is there another word? Keeping your faith strong. Many people think that Salah and Siyam and Al-Hajj are practices for themselves. Let me ask you something. What do you know of the name of Allah Al-Ghani? What does it mean? Actually, Al-Ghani is not someone who has something. Al-Ghani is someone who doesn't need anything. Your Ghani means you don't need. That's a different understanding. Allah is what? Al-Ghani, he means all sufficient. He doesn't need anything. He's Allah. With that in mind, if all people were kuffar, not believers, would that affect God? No. Because he's what? Al-Ghani. If all people were as much believers as Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, would that add to Allah's might anything? Because he's Al-Ghani. So bottom line, as-salah is not Allah's gonna cash it, or as-siyam. Who's gonna cash it? You're going to be the recipient, not Allah. You're doing it for Allah, but the one who's going to catch that is who? Is yourself. And with that in mind, when we're talking about the salah, the outcome was brought to us in Surah Al-Alaq. What's the last word in Surah Al-Alaq? كلا لا تطعه واسجد واقترب. What was the first word in Surah Al-Alaq? This is the equation. Remember that, guys. This is the journey. اقرأ واسجد واقترب. Knowledge, read in the name of your Lord. Wasjud, engage in ibadah for one reason. What is the reason? To be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. واقترب, to be near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We call it ibadah أو مقام المعية. To be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is guarding you, that He is protecting you. There's even a hadith Qudusi in that. The Prophet ﷺ quoted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying in the holy hadith, وَمَا زَالَ عَبْدِي مَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أَحَبَّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا افترضته عليه. That the ibadat of al-fara'id, the obligated things, the ibadat of al-nawafil, وَمَا زَالَ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ بِالنَّوَافِلِ حَتَّى أُحِبَّهُ, until I love him. And if Allah loves you, كُنْتُ سَمْعَهُ الَّذِي يَسْمَعُ بِهِ وَبَصَرَهُ. Allah becomes guarding your hearing, guarding your sight, guarding your steps, guarding your hand. This is the maqam of al-ma'iyya, that you are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maqam al-qurb, that you are close with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As-salah, as-siyam, al-hajj, they are all practices that makes you what? Closer with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me finish with this. When we talk about the acts of, I just gave you a couple examples from the shahada and the concept of salah, but let me finish with this. Your journey in this life is meant to make you a Muslim by choice. Someone who woke up maybe to Muslim parents, but those people who did not wake up to Muslim parents, maybe they live moments with Allah, and this is I personally experience. I remember also one time right here, I had a group of students coming from, is that Trinity College? That one on Al Fayed? Yeah, Trinity College, right? So there was a group of students coming here, and someone asked me, when I listed the 5 pillars of Islam about Hajj, he said, how many times you went to Hajj? So, I used to take groups for Hajj. I said, I don't know, maybe 20. He said, 20? 25? Like, that's too many. I said, yeah, I'm a group leader. I go with them every year. And then he asked me this. So how did you feel the 3rd time, the 7th time, the trip number 12? Was it like the first one? And I told him, you know what? I'm good that you asked that. I said, the first time, I lived with the Kaaba and with the rituals, my own emotions. But every single time after that, I connected with people's reaction to the Kaaba and the rituals. Whenever I go with a group of people and I see them crying when they're first seeing the Kaaba, I feel emotional with them. As if it is echoing this level of spirituality. Is just like echoing from one person. Why do you feel this much spirituality? Because everyone went there and they're bringing out their what? Their emotions of spirituality, and you cannot but live it with them. So I was affected by them more than I was affected as a personal, who has done it twice, 3 times, 5 times. And for those people who embrace Islam new and converts, they'll make you live with them moments that you feel that they are Sahaba almost. We did not remember how we woke up into Islam when we were like 7 or 8 or 9 when we started practicing. But for someone to take their shahada, a male or a female, and to say it and then cry, at that moment, you just wish you are in their shoes. Living what they are living as a feeling. Experiencing this beauty. Because when we say La ilaha illallah, we just La ilaha illallah. But when they say it at that moment, it is so fresh, it is so raw. And that's what the Prophet says, Al-Islamu yajubu ma qablahu, that it washes out what? All their past and that. We just hope and wish that we can always live these moments and engage it in a way that it reflects not just information, but rather knowledge of truth that can shape us to be better Muslims, to be steadfast ourselves on our deen, and to be people that people look up to us, and inshallah will be guiding them to this path of truth. Jazakumullah khair for listening to my boring session, maybe, I don't know. But I hope I was able to engage you in something that you learned something, that you can go home and say, today I learned something new, inshallah ta'ala, and benefit from that. Jazakumullah khair wa barakallah fikum. Fadal. We have a question here, maybe we can benefit from the questions. If there's any question, I'll be more than happy to take it. Go ahead.
Inshallah, we have some time for question and answer. Here's the mic.
I want to talk on behalf that I have, young. I was hoping if you have a booklet, the response on it, something that both, and if that American adults can use knowledge, will you take upon project?
Actually, I'm working on something like I am working on something
And,
that now.
$1,000.
Inshallah. Money is not an issue. It just takes a lot of time because there's so much on our plate. But let me give you also a story that happened here at the Mass Foundation. I remember a young Muslim guy who called me on the phone from UIC. And he said, do you have 20 minutes for me? I said, yeah. He said, I have some doubts that I want to share with you, and if you have any answer. I said, okay. He came with a notebook, almost 50 pages. And the whole notebook was filled. He had handwriting and all of it. I said, my goodness, you're going to tell me all that are doubts? And I'm going to... We ended up staying for almost 2 hours and a half, right down in this masjid downstairs. Young Palestinian, bright man. He was very smart, mashallah. And name doubts that can come to your mind, he just listed. I don't know where he was searching, whom he was sitting to, and I don't claim that I had a perfect answer for everything that he presented, but I think I left him with a lot of good answers that made him review his thoughts. And then when he was done, he said, any advice for me, Sheikh? Thank you for your time. I think you answered a lot. I said, yeah, I have one question. He said, yeah. I said, how long it took you to collect all that? He said, almost 2 years and a half. I said, al-mushkila, you spent 2 years and a half looking at what you thought is a shortcut, or the negatives. Can you give 1 month an approach of seeking guidance instead of seeking misconceptions? Can you just shift your heart? Because the way you approach things is a huge difference, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَن يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. You have to think that, just to be fair, that this deen is the truth, and can you come to it in an open-hearted mind that you want to learn, rather than you're going to come to like as if you are an Orientalist, you're like this mustashriqeen, whatever, who's studying to see like, like al-Arus, Rahatun al-Arus. Like she's looking for what's missing in the girl. Can you look at what's in the girl, like as good, for God's sake? So you're going to come back and list for your son all the missing parts? Can you come and say, this is fair? You cannot just look at what's missing in the cup, as they say. He said, I'm going to do that. So there is a lot of content out online, but you mentioned something very relevant, that it has to be within our context living in the US. That's number one. The language has to be simplified, not something complicated, because a lot of people, and now the big challenge, it has to be fast doses. No one has time to go read all these long things. You have to have, like, but let me finish with this. Books are not going to solve the problem. The equation is very clear in the Quran. In Surah Al-Jumu'ah, what does Allah say? هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم. That's what? يتلو عليهم آياته. يتلو means what? He is delivering the text, the Quran. ويزكيهم ويعلمهم. يعلمهم is what? Explaining. So يتلو is delivering. يعلمهم is what? Explaining and teaching. What's in the middle? ويزكيهم. يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. What is التزكية? How could the Prophet bring tazkiyah, purification, to the Sahaba? Through his role model, through his own character, being with them. What our kids now need, not really just a book that is on the shelf. They need mentors. They need leaders. They need characters. They need people that they look up to, that they sit with them one-on-one or in halaqat. And it's not just they're giving them information, they're learning from their own experience, from their own adab, from the way they handle themselves. This is a more important challenge, that we need to produce, as I said, leaders who can not just be knowledgeable for themselves, not just steadfast on their deen themselves, but rather helping others to be what? On the right track, inshallah ta'ala. So it's a combination of the individuals, the leaders, the characters, and with the content with that, inshallah ta'ala. Any other questions?
Do you have any questions on the sister's side?
All clear? طيب, جزاكم الله خير وبارك الله فيكم.